Okay, we're looking at LSAT 64. This is October of 2011, Analytical Game 4. Exactly 8 books, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, and O, are placed on a bookcase with exactly 3 shelves. So the variables, we have 3 shelves. At least 2 books are placed on each shelf. Okay, so right now we know that we've got a vertical game, meaning that we do have 3 groups here, the bottom row, the middle row, and the top row. Typically we think of, we would put our groups kind of like on a horizontal plane, but because it's so intuitive, when we think of the shelves, it's going to be vertical in nature. Within this, there are 3 groups there because we know that we have at least 2 variables on each level. There's also a sequential aspect in that there's a bottom, middle, and a top. I mean, it does matter how these rows are ordered. So we have a grouping game with sequential aspects. Okay? All right, so the following conditions must apply. More of the books are placed on the bottom shelf than the top. So the bottom row has a greater number than the top row. I is placed on the middle shelf, so I is in the middle. K is placed on a shelf higher than F, so we show it like this. K is greater than F. O is placed on a higher shelf than L, so O is greater than L. And then F is placed on the same shelf as M. Okay, so as always we want to utilize the hierarchy of rules to solve the scenarios. The first thing that you should understand is we're dealing with a distribution. And you shouldn't get so caught up in trying to figure out all the possibilities of the distribution. What you should think about is this. We know for a fact it has to look, we'll just start with the minimum. Okay, this is the bottom, middle, and top, obviously. That's the minimum. And then we know from the other rule that the bottom row has to have a greater number than the top row. So we cannot place anything on this top row. If we did, we would be out of variables. We're 7 here. So really all that can happen is you can have either a variable here or a variable here. It's really, at this moment in time, irrelevant to flesh all that out. It might be tempting to try to create 2 different worlds and work from there, but it's unnecessary. When you get down to just one variable here or here, it's easy to express it just by saying, hey, this particular variable could go either up here or here. So we'll begin at this point. So we want to apply first order rules. First order rules, recall, are just rules that say, hey, this particular variable goes in this spot, and it's this one. I occurs in the middle. Okay? And then the second order rule given is a block. It says 2 guys must occur with one another. All right? So we know that F and M must occur with each other. In modern games, well, really in all games, you kind of want to look at the other rules to just see if there's any limiting factor on the distribution. And yeah, we know that K has to be above F, which means that F cannot be placed here. So there's only 2 possibilities where F can go, and we're going to go ahead and flesh that out right now. So if I place, I'm going to start with F and M here. And notice when I did that, I have created this grouping is complete. I've got a total of 8 variables. And then let's just move over. Okay, that's all that F and M can do. All right, so we have exhausted what can occur with FM, and now we just need to look at these 2 third order rules. Third order rules just say that something occurs before something else. In this case, something is higher than something else. So if we apply this K is greater than F to this particular setup, K must be here, then that means O is greater than L, and then we have G and H. This one is complete, so when F and M is in the middle, there's only one thing that can happen. But let's take a look at what can happen here. Let's, if we consider what's happening with K, right? K has to be greater than F. So if we place K here, then there's one other thing that can happen with K. Okay, that is, we have exhausted everything that K can do in this situation. So now we're just needing to apply O and L. And the OL situation here is just really a basic distribution. It's a 2-3 distribution. We know that there are 3 potential locations. We know that O has to occur higher than L, and so we just go ahead and flesh it out. O can go here. O can go here. And then lastly, O can occur right here. Okay, so with regard to this, there are only 3 things that can happen. This, you should see this immediately. 2-3 distributions should be just absolutely second nature to you. The same thing happens here. It's just the exact same game played over again. Okay, so again, we have a total of 7 scenarios, and we are only dealing with now with G and H, and those are not listed in any of the rules. They can basically occur anywhere. So recall, this is totally solved. So we know that we have to have a G or an H here, which means that you could have, well, let me actually express this a little bit better. Right here, we can have an H or a G in either one of these rows. It's redundant to flesh this out into 2 other different scenarios. We know that H or G, we have G or H can occur here, and either, the other option can occur either here or actually down here. Same thing with this. Here we have this. Here we actually have to use our G and H up top. We know that we have to have this. Okay, and that is it. We have wholly solved the scenarios. There is a kind of a floater variable going on, but it's really we can see what happens, and we should be able to answer any question with ease. So let's go ahead and go to the questions. Okay, which one of the following could be a complete and accurate list of the books placed on the bottom shelf? Okay, well, let's just go through. We know that you can't just have 2 on the bottom shelf. We have to have a minimum of 3, so A is out. Let's look at B, F, H, or M. If you look at, let me go ahead and number these to make this a bit easier. If you look at scenario 2, F, M, and H could occur. As such, B is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at C. We have a G, H, and K. If you notice, K can never occur on the bottom row because of the rule here. K must be greater than F, so C falls out. Let's look at D, F, G, M, and O. Same thing with O must be greater than L, so D would fall out. And then E, G, H, L, and M. We could have a GH on the bottom here. There's no L. There's no GHLM here, here, here. There's nothing here. You could have a GLMF, but that's not GHLM, and it doesn't happen here or here. Just normally on a list question like this, I'll go through the rules, but because I've solved this out, I'm pretty comfortable with just rolling through each one of my scenarios to find the answer. So either way would work. Okay. Let's look, and again, B was the correct answer to the question. Let's look at 20. It is fully determined which of the shelves each of the books is placed on if which one of the following is true. Okay, so what you want to look at here is just, is there only one situation where an answer choice is shown on just one of these scenarios? And if that's the case, then if that situation happens, only one thing can happen. So let's look at A. I and M are placed on the same shelf. Here, I and M are placed on the same shelf. Okay, if I find one other scenario where I and M are placed on the same shelf, then it's not fully determinative when I and M are placed on the same shelf that one thing is going to happen. Here's my one thing, right? But let's go through. I don't have an IM here. And if you'll notice on the rest of these, M is below because we put FM here and then FM down below. So only one thing does happen when I, M are on the same shelves. It's actually if I and M are on the same shelf, that means F. So we have IFM, and then this is wholly solved out. Only one thing happens. As such, A is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at B, though. K and G are placed on the same shelf. Well, in scenario 4, I've got K and G that could potentially be placed on the same shelf. If I do not find another K and G placed on the same shelf, then I have a huge problem. So let's go ahead and look and see if we can find that. And it happens here in scenario 6. K and G could be placed on the same shelf here. You could have an H here and a G here. So when K and G are placed on the same shelf, two different things can happen. As such, that is not the correct answer to the question because we're looking for only a situation where two things are placed on the shelf and only one thing can happen. Okay? Let's look at C. L and F are placed on the same shelf as one another. It happens in scenario 3 and it happens in scenario 6. We're done. If you're looking at more than two, you're wasting time. As soon as you find more than one, you move on to the next answer choice. D, M and H are placed on the same shelf. It could happen in scenario 4 and it could happen in scenario 6, so that cannot be the answer. And then E, H and O are placed on the same shelf. It happens here. It could also happen here, so that cannot be the answer to the question. So as such, we've proven that A is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at 21. Which one of the following must be true? O is placed on a higher shelf than M is placed on. Okay, well, anywhere that O is on the top, that cannot, obviously we have M below, M below, M below, O and M, O and M, O and M, O and M. That is the correct answer to the question. The correct answer to the question is A. O must be placed on a higher shelf than M because we don't have a situation where that does not happen. Let's look at B, though. K is placed on a higher shelf than G. In scenario 6, K and G could be on the same shelf, so that cannot be true. I don't want to say it cannot be true. It could be true, okay, but it doesn't have to be true. Let's look at C. I is placed on a higher shelf than F. I is higher than F here, 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 but not here. Okay, so that does not have to be true. Let's look at D. G is placed on a higher shelf than O. We'll look at scenario 5. G does not have to be placed on a higher shelf than O. And then E. F is placed on a higher shelf than L. F is actually below L in scenario 2, so that doesn't have to be true. Again, we've proven that A is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at 22. If G is placed on the top shelf, then which one of the following could be a complete and accurate list of the books placed on the middle shelf? Okay, we don't have G here. We don't have it here, here. We do, starting here. We have G could be on the top shelf here, 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 and here. So we're looking at 4, 5, 6, and 7, and we're being asked what could be on the middle shelf. Well, let's just take a cursory look. Well, we know it's got to be. We know I has got to be placed. I. So it's IKO or IKL, some derivation of that. Okay, we have I's on every one of them. But if you look at A, we don't have an H on the middle shelf, so A falls out. Do we have just an IL? We do not. So B falls out. Do we have a HIL? We could have a HIK here. Okay. We could have a HIO, but we do not have a HIL. Do we have an IKL? And yes, in scenario 5, we have IKL. As such, D is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at E, though. FIM. We don't ever have an F on the middle shelf in a situation where G is placed on the top shelf. So again, we've proven that D is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at 23. If L is placed on a higher shelf than H, so if we have L on a higher shelf than H, where can that happen? It could happen here. Okay, it doesn't happen there. It could happen here. And then it can't happen anywhere. So scenarios 2 and 5, which one of the following must be true? A, F and G are on the same shelf. F and G do not have to be on the same shelf because we have F and H here. G could either be here or here, so that doesn't have to be true. Let's look at B. G and H are placed on the same shelf. Again, that doesn't have to be true because we have an H here, and G could actually float over to the middle shelf, so that doesn't have to be true. C, H and M are placed on the same shelf. Absolutely, this must be true. H and M must be placed on the same shelf as such. C is the correct answer to the question. Let's look at D, though. I and G are placed on the same shelf as each other. Well, G could occur either on the second or the middle or the bottom, so that doesn't have to be true. And then E, K and O are placed on the same shelf as each other. Well, K and O can happen here, but not here. So one of the things that you should understand is just how you read your scenarios. Okay, so oftentimes I'm only looking at one because I'm just looking to see what disproved. If something is disproved, then I don't need to go any further. But the last answer choice I was looking at, it said K and O must be placed on the same shelf. Well, I'm here and I'm like, okay, yeah, they do here. Let me move my other one. Okay, now this is disproved. So you just need to understand, what it is you're dealing with when you have these templates. It takes a little bit of work, but this is the ideal mechanism by which you want to solve LSAT logic games. Okay, that concludes LSAT 64, October of 2011, logic game 4. Thanks.